Hey ArcheryTalk, this is Lucas, and testing bows in 2021 has proven to be a bit of a challenge this year. From club closures to supply chain issues for some of the manufacturers, it has been a bit of a handful to get this organized, but finally we are here. It is time for the 2021 ArcheryTalk Hunting Bow Shootout. The contenders this year, in the order I received them, are the Mathews V3 31, the Prime Nexus 2, the Xpedition Archery X33, and the Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra. Now that's just 4 bows, and you might be wondering why is he only putting 4 bows in the shootout this year, and that's because I had a little trouble getting things organized, and because of my club closure for a while, I didn't think I had the time to dedicate to shoot 7 or 8 different bows, and some of the manufacturers chose not to participate this year. I'm hoping next year we'll be able to get everything back on track and get a good full shootout going. But this is the best I can do for you this year. I hope you'll accept that, and let's get going. It's also worth noting that any opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine alone. We all have different likes when it comes to bows. You might like a bow that produces the absolute most speed. I might like a bow that's a little smoother on the draw. Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. I absolutely don't mind, and I look forward to reading them. Now let's get on to the shootout. I've broken this down into multiple categories, and each one is going to affect the final outcome, and then I'll share my verdict. Let's get to it. The first category we're going to look at is draw cycle, and a little while ago I posted a video kind of showcasing how each of the 4 bows I'm testing felt on the draw cycle, so I'm not going to dig into too many details here. But I will say that it was a very close battle for first place, and I had to give the edge to the Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra. The RX-5 offers a very smooth linear draw cycle, and that is what I look for in a bow. The Mathews V3 31 feels like a lighter bow to draw, but there's a bit of a dump into the valley that I've not seen on a Mathews bow in quite a while. However, it's worth pointing out that the V3 is far and away the easiest bow to let down. I don't know how they make it feel so much lighter than 70 pounds, but it's pretty impressive. The Xpedition X33 finished 3rd in this category, ever so slightly ahead of the Prime Nexus 2. Both have a pretty easy start to the draw with a heavier feel in the second half. The next category we're going to look at is speed, and personally I don't spend much time worrying about that. All these bows are plenty fast for me, but I have a longer draw length. I'm shooting 70 pounds, so maybe I'm not the person they're targeting these speed numbers at. So this year I set up all the bows at 70 pounds of draw weight and draw lengths ranging from 30 1/4 inches to 30 3/8 inches. So just 1/8 apart from 1st to 4th. And I shot a 350 grain gold tip platinum pierce arrow 3 times through each of them. Interestingly, the Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra, the Prime Nexus 2, and the Mathews V3 31 all finished with an average of 328 feet per second, and the Xpedition X33 finished just 2 feet per second behind at 326. I've never had a competition that close before, but if I'm going to give a winner in this category, I'm probably going to give it to the Hoyt, mostly because it came closest to its advertised speed. Stability and accuracy is the next category, and to me, that just kind of shows how the bow feels and holds at full draw. This is another super close category, but I'm going to give the edge here to the Mathews V3 31. The Mathews Vertex is one of my favorite bows of all time because I shot it so well. The V3 31 feels eerily similar. Even without a stabilizer, this bow just wants to stay on target. The Xpedition X33, Prime Nexus 2, and Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra are every bit as accurate as the Mathews, but they all required some stabilization out front to really kind of settle things down in the draw. That said, I would have no trouble taking any of those onto the tournament field or into the hunting field. Up next, we're going to look at noise and vibration, and if there's any one category that has a clear winner, this is it. Again, I don't know what magic formula Mathews has to make their bows so quiet and dead in the hand, but the V3 31 has it in spades. This thing is ridiculously quiet to the point where you wouldn't think it's a 70-pound bow. It sounds like a 50-pound bow. The Hoyt RX-5 Ultra is very quiet in its own right. Probably the quietest carbon bow I've ever shot, but it finishes behind the Mathews for sure into 2nd place. And the Prime and the Xpedition X33 are going to kind of finish just behind the Hoyt. Now let's look at grip. And a few years back, there were a couple of bow manufacturers that had grips I just did not enjoy. I'm not going to mention them here, but suffice it to say that everyone has kind of cleaned up the grip game, and I'm liking every bow I'm shooting this year. But if I got to pick a winner, I'm going to go with the Xpedition X33. I absolutely love the grip on this bow. It is narrow, it is dead flat, and it feels perfect in my hand. There's not much else you can ask for. The Prime Nexus 2 is probably a close second. I used to love the Prime grip and how it felt when it was right off the riser. It was also flat and narrow and easy to hold. They've opted for that nano grip this year, which has a different texture in the hand, but it has some benefits in that when it's cold outside and you're holding onto that nano grip with the aerogel underneath, it will actually warm up the longer you hold it. For us Canadian hunters or northern hunters, that's just something that would come in awfully handy. Up next is tunability, and it seems like every year I've got one or two bows that give me some headaches. Fortunately, that just wasn't the case this year. All four bows shot very well for me out of the box. I would say I'll give first place marks here though to the Xpedition X33. This thing was an absolute snap to set up and have shooting bullet holes. All I did was I got my knock point kind of running with the arrow going through the upper half of the burger holes and had my eyeball the rest for my left and right, shot through paper, an immediate bullet hole. Had to do zero additional tuning to that bow whatsoever. Fit and finish is our next category, and realistically this isn't something that's going to make a lick of difference for you in the woods if you're hunting this year. The deer don't care what your bow looks like. Really, nobody but you cares what your bow looks like. However, some of us do like to show off our new kit every once in a while when we go to the club, and with that in mind, all of these manufacturers have their stuff together. They're all making great looking bows this year. If I'm going to pick a winner, it's a really tough, close call this year. I'm probably going to give it to the Xpedition X33. I was a little skeptical that a bow that is as light as that bow is would look as good as it does. And you know, in my experience, the bows that are super lightweight are kind of cheaper bows. The X33 looks like a flagship bow. It feels like a flagship bow. It just happens to be way lighter than anything I'm testing this year. So with that, I'm just going to give it the nod with just the slightest bump ahead of the Prime Nexus 2. I'm a huge fan of what Prime bows look like. I love the long risers. Mathews is the same thing. I love the Mathews long riser. And the only thing holding the Hoyt back from kind of messing with the top of this list is I'm getting just a couple of small chips out of the paint, which I think is mostly my fault because, you know, I'm not as gentle as I can be with bows. Sometimes they bang together when I'm carrying them around for shoots. And so I'm guessing that's where most of that damage has occurred. It's just something I thought was worth sharing. The next category we're going to look at is price and value, and there is some real range this year when it comes to the price tags on these bows. We're looking at a $650 gap between the least expensive to the most expensive. I don't think I've had a gap like that since the first year I started doing these videos. With all that in mind, I think the clear winner here is going to be the Prime Nexus 2. At $1,000, it is the least expensive bow in this comparison, and I understand $1,000 isn't cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but when it comes to flagship archery bows, that's the cost of admission. The good news with the Prime is you get free replacement strings and cables every 2 years for the original owner, and you even get a free tune-up within the first 6 months of buying the bow at your local dealer. That means, you know, if you don't have access to a bow press, or you're not as comfortable making tuning choices on your own, take it to your local dealer within the first 6 months of buying it, and they'll make sure it's up to snuff before you head into the woods. With an advertised price of $1,100, the Mathews V3 31 takes second in this category. And after that, it's a pretty big jump up to third. The Xpedition X33 comes in at $1,400. Now, that is a lot when you're looking at a bow that has what seems to be a regular alloy riser, but of course the X33 has its new Magnite proprietary material in the riser. That's what makes it so light, and that's what you're going to have to pay for. Ultimately, new technology costs money, and if you want a bow that's dead light, that's what it's going to cost. Moving up into fourth in this category is going to be the Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra. At $1,650, that is a tough pill to swallow, and maybe tough to convince your better half that you need to be spending that much money. Now comes the hard part. I got to pick a winner, and this year I really did enjoy shooting all four of these bows. But if price is no object, I think I'm going to go with the Hoyt Carbon RX-5 Ultra. This bow has a fantastic draw cycle. It is surprisingly fast, way faster than you would expect considering its rated speed, at least versus all the other rated speeds I've tested in this year. And it's a great looking bow, and it shoots dead nuts accurate. Love that bow. However, price is usually an object for people. You know, I know when I'm thinking of buying a bow, $1,650 is a lot to consider. But as I mentioned, if you like what Hoyt has done this year with the binary cam, if you like how the bows are performing and the specs they've got, look at the Ventum 33. That's another option. But in our test, I don't have the Ventum 33. I have the Mathews V3 31, and at $550 less than the Hoyt, when it comes to value, I think I would go in that direction, considering price and everything else. But again, both bows are fantastic. All four bows are well worth getting. So I would advise you, if you can, to get to your local dealer and shoot as many of these as you can and decide for yourself. Thank you so much for watching Archery Talk. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel an awful lot, and we'll see you again soon.